everyone, and welcome to the video. I'm Professor Amanda, and class has officially begun, and we are here with the man himself, Mr. MatthewBrewer. Matthew, how you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. You?
I'm really excited about this, and also I'm excited for you, obviously, because we were discussing a while ago about your bad luck always qualifying for Continentals. So can you kind of talk us through that?
Yeah, so season one, I got to the final of regionals and got to the went down to a decider, and I lost the decider because my opponent, and no criticism of my opponent here, he's a good friend of mine and a really good battler. My opponent got back-to-back sky attack saves on his Skarmory versus my Medicham when he didn't think he had them, and he had the smallest of slithers left on his health, and I couldn't get a fast move through between the charge moves, and it literally came down to that in the decider of the final. So yeah, missed out season one. Season two, my regionals didn't go particularly well. I lost, I think it was round 2, so I was sort of out of it from the start, really. But I think so when they did the global cutoff for ranks, I think I was outside of the top 100 the month that they did it. But I think 2 months, either of the 2 months either side, and an extra month, I would have been in the top 100. And then in the wild cards, I went 6-1.
Oh man, okay, so close. So, but like we say, third time is a charm. So
absolutely, yeah, got in a global rank. Yeah,
that's awesome. And so, tell us a little bit about the format for Continentals. It was very similar to regionals in that it was a 20-point system.
Yeah, 20-point system, and then 1 mon from each generation, really. Some of the mons had been reassigned values. I think what I noticed was that a lot of the 4-point picks didn't particularly jump out. It felt to me like a lot of the 4-point picks were there because they were too good to do 1-point picks. So with that in mind, I went with 2 6-pointers. Yes, with Scrafty and Toad. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to walk us through your team composition at all, of like why you chose the things that you did? I see some pretty spicy stuff, not things that people would probably normally pick.
Yeah. So when I was first building, I noticed that whatever I ended up with was either weak to Politoed or weak to Scrafty. From the beginning, like I thought Scrafty and Bronzong were going to be awesome in this meta, so I was with them all the way through, really. And then I thought, yeah, try and bring Politoed into that as well, because as I say, things that when I was building, if I was strong versus Scrafty and Bronzong, I was weak to Politoed and vice versa. So that was there. Golbat was the other key thing for me. I thought was great value at 4 points. I've used Golbat a lot in the past, so I'm comfortable with it as well. That was pre-Poison Fang. What I really liked about it is that it's an answer to Charm that isn't weak to ground, as Bronzong is. So that was always nice. So that core 4 really was the sort of crux of the team.
And then the other ones were just for show?
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far. Melodic, I was really pleased with. I didn't use it a great deal, but when I did, it was excellent. Melodic was there to take on combination teams that have a Dragon type, a Water type, and a Fire type. That sort of thing. Breaking that up with Dragon Tail was really good. So yeah, I was really pleased with the Melodic pick. And then the last slot was always going to be the issue for me, because I don't have anywhere near enough XL Candy to build in a Lowland Grimer. So in this particular instance, I went with the Rapidash because I was a little weak to Scrafty.
Did you ever use the Rapidash?
I did. I used it a whole 1 time, and I lost that game. That wasn't the fault of the Rapidash. That was definitely my fault. So I was going to be Quilladin to help out with the Zoom rule, but I kind of figured that between Bronzong, Politoed, and Golbat, I've got enough that can take on the Zoom rule. And like ultimately, if I'm forced into running a 3 of Golbat, Politoed, Bronzong, I'm feeling quite happy about that. So yeah, I was more concerned with Scrafty and to a lesser extent Violet and the Spider, Galvantula. So yeah, I changed it last minute to the Rapidash. So that was it really, yeah.
So we're just going to cover a couple of your runs in the Continentals. So the first one, so we're pulling from round number 1. Do you have any thoughts about your team composition versus the other person? What do you look for when you first see an opponent? And also, first round is always a bit of a, nerve-wracking when it's a tournament like this, because if you don't do well at your first round, it kind of demoralizes you for the rest of the matches a little bit. Or maybe you're opposite of me and it just inspires you to push even harder. But the sweep is out of the question.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely the same. But yeah, the first thing I look for is, do they have a dark type? Because if not, Bronzong's going to be great. And this team doesn't have a dark type. Has a few hard losses in there and has Swampert, so kind of envisaging the Swampert coming every game really. But there's nothing really on my team other than the Bronzong that's particularly weak to Swampert. So I'm kind of thinking here that as long as I protect Bronzong, because Bronzong I think maybe beats Swampert in the 2s, as long as I can just protect Bronzong, I should be fine. I don't particularly need to worry about switch advantage either, so long as I don't get something like Polytoad caught up against Ivysaur. Or Scrafty up against the Surf Edge. So was quite confident going into this, to be honest.
Well, let's check it out. So let's see, you have your Polytoad lead into a Bronzong, so this is pretty decent for you. You're already feeling confident?
Yeah, and then the Noctowl comes in, and I stay in a little bit, just build up a bit of energy, because that will help me versus the Bronzong later, if it gets to that.
I think you switching out was an indication to your opponent probably that you don't have Blizzard. What are your thoughts on that? Were you staying into kind of at first maybe think that you were going to fake a Blizzard and then said, no, I'm just going to gain the energy on the Bronzong?
No, it was all about keeping energy on the Polytoad really, just in case it might have come in useful later on versus the Swampert in the Zeros scenario or something like that. But I was a bit concerned at this point that actually I did switch a bit late, and if the Noctowl has a bit of energy and has Nightshade, it can sometimes overcome Bronzong in Zeros.
Yeah. But Nightshade is such a dinky move. I always feel like whenever I finally built up to a Nightshade and I throw it, I was like, that's all it did?
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. So yeah, as I was saying, I need to protect Bronzong, so I think I shield this. Yeah.
And then I assume that at this point you just farm it all the way down, and you'll have something to throw at the next thing that comes back in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no dark type, and even if he comes in with Bronzong, I've got the Bulldoze. So this is like best case scenario for him really, that he's got Swampert lined up against Bronzong.
So aggressive, to decide to switch out, and now let's see. Now they have the Bronzong of their own, but this is actually interesting. Even though Scrappy is a counter user, it is a dark type, and so obviously these are going to hurt the Bronzong more than the Confusions are hurting the Scrappy.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange switch from my opponent. Maybe it was just a reflex thing. I don't know, but
yeah. And there's no point in blocking any of this.
No,
even if it was a Bulldoze, I mean, it would still not do enough damage to take out the Scrappy.
Yeah,
so you're in a very, very comfortable position.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Interesting. Okay, so you choose to let the Scrappy go down, even though I had a foul play ready, mostly because a lot of energy on this Polytoad, and he's got to go for an Earthquake if he has it to knock out this Polytoad. So.
Yeah, Polytoad just felt like the safer win con. I mean, I've still got a side shock on Bronzong as well, so it just seemed like a choice. I think it was game over regardless. I think, but probably.
I like your confidence that you still don't even bother shielding, even though this is. Oh, and the opponent reveals that it is indeed a Sludge Wave. Okay.
So that's useful for me to know, because that means Bronzong's now not even, it's still obviously Swampert's still the best thing for Bronzong on his team, but the fact that there's not an Earthquake threat there, it's huge.
Right. I always, unless it's an actual dire situation, try not to reveal a second move on things that could be guessable. Like a Polytoads, or in this case a Swampert. Is it running Sludge Wave or is it running Earthquake? I know not everyone plays it that way, because sometimes it's your win condition too, and then you have to debate, was it worth the hiding information versus actually taking the win?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. Yeah, as you
Honestly,
say,
in that situation, I think I would have known that I was going to lose, and I probably would have just gone straight hydro cannons.
yeah, I think I did the same.
Everyone plays a little bit differently. Let's look at game number 2 here. We have a very, exciting match.
Yeah.
So how do you like to play out the mirrors? It's always different per Pokemon, I imagine, but are you a baiter or are you always going for them? Ooh, you are a switcher. Look at you catching on the Scrafty.
Well, again, in this particular matchup, I just know that I got to keep Bronzong safe, and I'm in for a good time. So this way, I didn't have to use a shield or energy. Obviously, this isn't great for me, but I can still do a big chunk and then come back in with Bronzong and get even more energy. So yeah, and that is part of the reason why I'm running Bulldozer over Payback as well, because obviously Bulldozer still isn't great versus Scrafty, but it's a step up from Payback or Psyshock.
Indeed. So you go ahead and let the Scrafty go down. And now, what is your thought process here? You have two things that are fairly deep. I mean, Politoed obviously doesn't have that great of an answer now, but the Noctowl is kind of low.
Yeah.
So is it again the just almost farming all the way down scenario?
I think I come in and absorb the energy with Bronzong, and then if I remember rightly, I think I switched to Politoed.
Oh yeah. Look at you, your memory is sharp. So yeah, charging up just a little bit of extra energy, throwing this weather ball. Noctowl is a very bulky bird, as we know.
Yeah.
At that range, weather ball is able to take it out. And now we're probably going to see the Bronzong is going to come back and okay. Is this an indication to you that probably Swampert is in the back when you see this Bronzong?
Yeah. Yeah, Swampert's probably in the back, and most importantly, the Ivysaur wasn't there.
Yeah.
But Swampert being in the back is, or Swampert probably being in the back is, seems confirmed here, or Crustle. But as we say, I'm pretty sure it'll be Swampert because he needs it for the Bronzong. So I imagine a shield, yeah.
Yeah.
Shield, please shield.
Yeah. So, again, I really like your overcharging with the Politoed. Obviously, any extra energy is an advantage going into this final matchup, which is indeed the Swampert. You guys both still have a 1 shield. This feels very similar to the game before, although now your Politoed is much lower health, but your Bronzong has much more health. However, those Hydro Cannons will definitely hurt the Bronzong, so...
Yeah, but because I've been saving that energy throughout the game, able to get to a couple really quickly.
Yeah, he's got no choice but to shield it up, and now you are at another one before he's able to reach the Hydro Cannon. What is your thought here? Are you going to shield if the Hydro Cannon goes to get it with the energy of the confusion? Oh yeah, definitely at this point, right?
Yeah.
No need. No need. Never mind, Matthew. So pretty decisive win on round 1. Tell us a little bit about the other rounds. We're going to show the next one is your round 5, but what happened in between?
So round 2, round 2 was okay. My team isn't particularly well prepared for Azumarill. And round 2, I got a team that had Azumarill and Scrafty. I managed to. I had a bit of luck with alignment in round 2, I think. So I won round 2. Round 3, again, I faced another Azumarill team. I just really wasn't expecting all the Azumarill. I think round 3, it was Azumarill and Wireless, where I won the first round, lost the second round, really by some distance, and then I've not watched it back, but I remember thinking that I could have done something different in round 3. So I lost round 3. Then round 4 was another Azu, and with Scrafty. And again, I won round 1, and then it sort of went downhill. I think I lost all 6 leads across the 2 losses, which I don't think overall leads were massively important here. However, when the core that I really struggled against was Azu's Scrafty, I think at that point to become a little bit more important.
RPS, yep.
So so lost 2 games on the bounce here. At this point, I've used Rapidash once and Melodic no times at all. And I just lost 2 in a row. Starting to question things a bit, but then opponent 5 comes up. So I remember seeing here, I don't really want to use Polysode because there's Pelipper there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really in Blizzard, so I'm walled heavily. But I looked at this team and I thought, there's not a huge deal for Melodic here. I believe the opponent is Belgian, I think. Is it?
Yeah, I was like, the name is definitely very familiar to me. So,
right. Yeah,
what was you doing competing in yours? Well, who am I to talk? I was competing in the US.
Yeah, I can't remember what I did here. I just remember I used Melodic all 3 because I didn't really want to use Polysode.
It's your other water here. Because we have a legend already in GBL. Are you ever threatened when you see the poses?
No, not really. Oh, this isn't good.
This isn't good indeed. What are your thoughts? Immediate swap to your safe swap here, which is the Melodic.
Yeah, straight in there.
This Dragon Tail's obviously chunking and charging up fairly decently. You're going. You're not even charging up all the way. You're going for a bait here, and if they are familiar at all, they probably won't block. Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw my energy before they got to theirs, because that way there's less chance of them baiting and me shielding, that sort of thing. So I tried to call the bait. Obviously, it didn't go very well.
And now, what are your thoughts? Because neither one of these do spectacular against Pelipper. Pelipper is a nice little 4-breaker, I guess. Did you see many of them in this cup?
Not a great deal. I think this might have been the only one. But yeah, as much as I'm going.
Basically, right now you are putting all your money on Scrafty.
Oh yeah. Because the Pelipper's down. So Scrafty is one of those ones that if you get the power-up punches rolling, it can just cut through teams.
Mm-hmm. You're not worried at all about the Galarian Surfers?
A little bit, but I think it's just.
You also were lucky that they didn't call your bait either. Are you guys saving your shields for the next game, or?
This is it. All in on Scrafty. That was the plan. Because if it was, if they had their own Scrafty in the back, all of a sudden I want to shield the power-up punches.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I get the shield on the power-up punch there.
Yeah, and this is actually great for you because Quagsire is a pretty good one. I was like, Matthew, you better shield. That was the latest shield I've seen. But Quagsire charges up actually kind of slow because both of its charge moves are nukes. So this is a great position for your Scrafty to be in. They don't bother shielding up the foul play, thinking it's probably another power-up punch. And at this point, you are in a very, very good position, able to probably even counter it down. So
yeah, between Scrafty and Melodic, there's a lot of that pair puts a lot of pressure on their Pelipper. So they have to, it's sort of a bit of guesswork what they want it to be lined up against. So I was quite happy with that. I think, again, I can't quite remember what happens in game 2. But I think I was probably expecting Scrafty here. So or certainly I was expecting something for them to deal a bit better with my Scrafty because.
Were you a little bit worried when the Hurricane basically took out your Melodic? Were you thinking that maybe you had played it a bit wrong, or were you still cool as a cucumber?
I was okay because I left it so low by the end of that the Pelipper was practically dead, and that was the thing that was standing in the way of the Scrafty sweep. So
this is a great lead for you. So, immediate swap out into that Pelipper. Pelipper now used as a safe swap, and you are staying into a foul play. Okay, because you want to get its energy or health at least down a little bit. Even though the health will be down, Pelipper with energy is probably the most dangerous thing on this guy's team.
Yeah. So I go to Golbat rather than Melodic just to help keep it away from Bronzong a bit. But I know if I can keep Switch here, that's the important thing because of Scrafty versus Bronzong in the back with the Pelipper gone. Yeah, so that's why I didn't go to Melodic as well, because if I can keep Switch, then Melodic's not against Bronzong, and yeah, it just feels to me like prioritizing Switch advantage here is massive.
So you'll be down a shield, but at least you'll get things lined up better. And like you said, the Bronzong will probably go in, but at this point you might have a Shadow Ball and you'll take that shield back almost immediately. Oh, wow, okay. You almost forget how quickly these weather balls come in, but you probably not, since you have that Polytoad on your team. Your opponent's always thinking the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a bit of energy as well left over, so if it does come back in with Bronzong, maybe I can get to a Shadow Ball.
Mm-hmm. And you see it come in, that confusion looks like it just registered, so let's see if they decide to block up this Shadow Ball. They don't, knowing that Scrappy is probably going to do heavy damage on it anyway, and you do an immediate swap out to the Scrappy.
Yeah, so I can, just so I can start getting the counter damage, start getting the counter energy coming through,
Mm-hmm.
in case I have to land a foul play on a Haunter perhaps or something like that. Wanted to be a bit faster to it.
Oh, smart. Okay. Yeah. Again, it's that Quagsire. We've seen this before. However, this time you are out of shields, and therefore the Scrappy has done its job and will retreat silently back into its ball.
Yeah, he's been a good boy. He's done his thing. Goal back here to try and burn a bit of energy, because he's got to throw if he's gonna. Yeah, he's got to throw his energy if he's gonna take me out.
And now load it for the sweep here, because even with the Bronzong, even if it's at a Psyshock, won't do enough to take out this. And I don't know if a Boulder was good at this range either. Have you faced this problem yet? Because they still do have a shield, but very, very low health.
Yeah, it's one of them where overall it's a nice matchup for Bronzong, but the zeros isn't too bad because the Surf's hurt and the Psyshock's hurt as well. So zeros isn't too bad. So when there's this much of a health discrepancy, it's the power of Dragon Tail is too much.
Even though it's resisted off of the steel typing, it's able to barely take it out. All right. So now your confidence is a bit restored.
Yeah, much happier now, and I felt a bit more confident in the team as well, because it's it no longer felt like Melodic and Rapidash were sat there being a waste of space. I felt a bit more assured in that regard as well. Round 6, I think that was one where Scrafty did a lot of work. If I remember rightly, I think that was a Ferrothorn. I think that team had Ferrothorn and Ninetales, and I was just able to power up punch through a lot of that team, if I remember rightly. But yeah, I'd have to double check. So that went well. And then it was just, I knew, because I'd won all my games 3-0 and I'd lost 1-2, I knew going into this round that if I won, realistically winning 2-1 probably would have done it, but winning 3-0 I definitely qualify.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really quite nervous waiting for the matchup to come up. And then when it came up that it was Unkempt Beast, I was quite pleased, not because he's a bad player or anything, but because we've played a fair bit in the past, and so it takes away that fear of the unknown a little bit.
Right. Yeah, you kind of know the style. Does this person like to bait? Probably essentially what moves they're running, whether they're aggressive or if they're more of a safe person. Yep. Yeah,
in my head, the Galvantula is really good versus me, so I know that's going every game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Bronzong's my only thing that properly beats it, and even that's a bit sketchy. So
with the Probopass on his team, what are you thinking about that? Because obviously if you have to bring Bronzong, like you said, you kind of know this player and you know his style, so he knows as well that you have to bring the Bronzong against him. So what are you imagining he's going to bring it? Is this going to turn into a little bit of a rock paper scissors scenario?
So if I was him, that's how I'd be playing it. I thought if I was him, and again based on my experience playing him before, I was expecting either a Dragonite or Probopass lead, with Galvantula sort of safe swap. He doesn't know that I'm running Bulldoze on Bronzong, so he's perhaps thinking that that Probopass has a much better time versus Bronzong than it does in actual fact, because I do have Bulldoze. So my big thing was, lead Bronzong, because that allows me to keep switch versus the Galvantula if he tries to save switch to Galvantula, and then have something in the back that can take on Probopass well, and then something in the back that's at least neutral versus Dragonite. So I think
that's also a bit of the problem, since I'm not sure if he knows that your Politoed is not running Blizzard either, but the Bronzong is also probably one of the best answers to the Shadow Dragonite as well, but unfortunately for Bronzong, you can only do so much per game, so it's either going to be your Galvantula counter or your Dragonite.
Yeah, well, I think I brought Golbat in the back, knowing that it's not actually a terrible matchup versus Galvantula, because certainly if you've got one or two wing attacks, because Galvantula can't really bait versus, it can't go for the lunges versus Golbat unless it's feeling really brave.
Yeah, and on the flip side, you're just really going to weather it down, not only with the wing attacks, but with the subsequential Poison Fangs, making the defense even lower. So you're going to hopefully just get that Galvantula out of there as soon as possible, even if it takes out your Golbat.
Yeah, and it can also do a similar thing versus the Dragonite as well. So that was the thinking, I think. Yeah.
Let's see if your memory serves you well.
I definitely lead Bronzong. I can definitely remember that much.
You're right so far. Okay, you have Bronzong against the Probopass, and let's see what you have in the back. You have a Scrafty and a Golbat. Okay.
So happy enough staying in, because I know I'm going to win this.
Yep.
Because
and you can see that it is a Spark Probopass. So it's going to get to its moves very quickly, but not that it's going to be that effective against Bronzong here.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting him to shield because most Bronzong run payback. So I'm hoping this goes through.
So you charged up a lot of extra, making him think that it could be a payback. He does not shield. Whoa, okay. This is what I was talking about. First time, it's almost necessary. You know, normally I like to hide the big move, but in this case, you kind of need it to take out this Probopass.
Yeah, definitely. I felt that was a bit quick to be on the Thunderbolt, so was a bit brave for that one. Get some damage on the Toad, and do I switch here? So I don't want him to farm.
Yeah, exactly. Golbat safe switch and kind of does what you expect him to do. Bring in that Galvantula, but you still have a little bit of health left on the Bronzong, so you're actually in a fairly good spot here. Yeah,
and as I say, I've got those two wing attacks in on Golbat, so I know this matchup isn't terrible. So long as I'm sensible and shield. Don't try calling any baits. Yeah. So just chipping away.
Doing very well, charging up a little bit of extra energy throwing before they can get to their second move. And now it is up to Unkept Beast whether he wants to shield to keep this in play. He chooses to let the Golbat go, or not the Golbat, the Galvantula go down in with that Politoed.
And now, yeah, let this through. I want to save my shield for Scrafty, so I can hopefully just counter through the Politoed. Power up punches as well.
Yep. No use even bothering to go for a big move and bait, because yeah, at this little of health and with the subsequential power up punches making it even stronger, but yeah, you're in a really, really good position. Are you nervous for the second game? Because now that they know that you have Bulldoze, it does really flip the matches of the Probopass.
Nervous, yes, but it doesn't really. As far as I'm concerned, I still bring Bronzong. Yeah, maybe he doesn't bring Probo now. Yeah, I suppose there's only I can only really think about what I can do, and even if he doesn't bring Probopass, Bronzong's still really important. So there's a bit of more of an unknown factor about what he might do this game. But yeah, Bronzong's still important to me. I'll lead it again. Yeah, again, got to stop the Galvantula save switch.
So what are your thoughts? Because now I'm looking at, yeah, you have the Politoed and a Scrafty in the back. Neither one did that great against Galvantula, but you were Galvantula hunting and you didn't find it with the Bronzong. And maybe as well, your opponent is a little bit wiser, thinking, I see what they did there. They needed that Galvantula out of the way.
Yeah, well, the thinking there with this particular move was that it might bait the Galvantula out, but if it doesn't, it might also bait a Dragonite out. which helps with my polytoad in the back. I think I got a bit greedy on the farming there, so I have to shield. But this is still an okay position, I think.
They force the shield as well, and you'll definitely be able to get to at least one more beforehand, putting it down pretty low, and then that's even better for your bronze on.
Yeah. So I expect this one probably gets shielded. Oh no. Okay.
You're like, no, I've already wasted one shield on you, but they had to throw because they knew that you could get to a power-up punch at the very least if they were just trying to bolt switch you down.
Yeah, sure.
So at least you're getting a little more energy again. Every little bit of energy counts. As we saw from that first game, you just saved up a ton of energy on your bronze on and was able to throw like 2 Psyshocks against that Swampert. So it's kind of like a similar deal where you still have a Psyshock and a Bulldoze, it looks like, saved up on the bronze on now in the polytoad mirror.
So I've kept trying to catch him throwing weather balls this game, and he never has happened. Yeah, I let that one through thinking he might bait, but he didn't. And then I let this one through thinking it was came too fast.
And so now you are at the Earthquake as well, and they switch out to a Probopass.
Yeah, so I go for the weather ball here, thinking because I'm such low health, they might shield this and try and farm me down.
But no.
No.
But
So,
okay. Now you go for the Earthquake.
Yeah, because then that way I had the shield the weather ball. I'd still have, that was the plan.
They're all in on their own polytoad.
Yeah, and this weather ball's huge. Yeah, because it puts them in farm down or potential farm down range.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm screaming at my phone for them to not to not have 100 energy bait saved up. But then I think the side shot went through, and then so a lot of relief.
Yes, I can imagine.
A huge amount of relief.
And so this, not necessarily these runs, although it was a magnificent gameplay, allowed you to be in the qualifying rounds to be able to compete in Continentals. And do you want to, no spoiler alerts, because we're going to go ahead and link the video Matthew's put out on his own channel about his run, but do you want to give us a little teaser? I will say this much, you were the only person in the whole tournament for Europe who used a Dragalge instead of an Alolan Grimer. And as you kind of said earlier, it's because you didn't have the XLs for it.
Yeah, nowhere near. I think I've got about 40 XL for it, so I'm not even approaching remotely close. I changed it up because my initial thinking when I was building was Scrafty, Dragalge, and Whiscash. But I was a bit concerned that Charm might be a thing, so didn't really want to bring Dragalge and Scrafty together. I thought at this point I thought I felt comfortable that Charm wasn't gonna exist, and the Azumarill were still fairly sparse. So, and personally, I don't think. I mean, if you've got Vullaby and Alolan Grimer, or particularly Alolan Grimer, available to take the 1 point pick in that slot 6, maybe Azumarill does become a lot more feasible. But in my mind, because Azumarill wasn't feasible for me, I just assumed it wouldn't be for everyone else.
It did look like you had quite a spicy lineup compared to everyone else, but I think the spice just comes from not having XLs, apparently.
Well, certainly not having XL Grimer, but then the way team building works here is that they have a knock-on effect, like with the points and all that. So, I was forced to. The spice really came in slots 1, 2, and just 1 and 2 really. But they were sort of the slot 2 pick was picked because I couldn't get Grimer in slot 6, and then that had a knock-on effect for how many points I was allowed to use elsewhere, and so there was a knock-on effect. I don't get me wrong, I still liked the team, and it worked well enough in the first couple of rounds, but then I think in round 3 Just had a real bad team matchup for various reasons, and then it was downhill from there. But yeah, it was good. It was really good experience, and was pleased to get that far. It was
so tell me, who are you cheering for in Worlds then? Now that we have all of our final contenders, are you going for Europe? You representing strong?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Shame Vitanasi didn't manage to claim a place there. But yeah, you got to cheer for the home team, haven't you? And I'd rather the person win from the tournament that I was in than the qualifier from the top 4 in Europe. So I'm 100% backing Bibalicious, definitely.
Backing him because he's a Swede like me.
There you go. Yeah, and he also ran a very similar team to me in prelims as well. I think he ran Celio over Milotic, and I think he ran Quilladin over Rapidash, and I think that might have been it. So.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. You have a very similar mind.
Yeah, and then we both changed up massively for the finals, and it worked better for him than it did for myself. So. Yeah.
Well,
definitely back
it's just year over year, Matthew. So it's like, now that you qualified this year, next year you're probably going to take it.
Well, this is it. Yeah, that's it. Gradual steps, isn't it? Small steps. We get there one day.
Well, thank you again for doing this. Really appreciate going over your run. I think it was really fun to do. And like I said, go ahead and go over to Matthew's channel after we're done. In fact, we'll just go ahead and link it, so the next video that plays will be Matthew's.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks everyone for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.